you had every right to crash out on him if you wanted to for this.
Reminds you of the young lady to your right?
I like Peyton Pritchard from Boston, the way he's able to handle.
Somebody check his drink, check his cup, check his medicine, check his food, check everything about Reggie Miller. Caitlin Clark and Peyton Pritchard don't belong in the same damn sentence together. Okay?
Watch her face. That's not just surprise. That's the exact moment Caitlin Clark realized an NBA Hall of Famer just compared her game to Peyton Pritchard. Not Steph Curry, not Reggie himself, Peyton Pritchard. And she cannot hide what she's thinking. This moment tells you everything about how the WNBA's biggest star navigates disrespect while sitting right next to the person delivering it.
Not even in the same sentence.
Reminds you of the young lady to your right?
I like Peyton Pritchard from Boston.
Look at her face. Look at her. And she can't hide it. She can't hide how she feel. Straight up, Caitlin Clark can't hide how she feels. She like, oh, hell no. I know he didn't just say some goddamn Peyton Pritchard. You could have said Steph Curry. You could have said Trae Young, Damian Lillard, something like that. Michael Jeffrey Jordan. You could have just said MJ. You should have said MJ. Come on, man.
He's able to handle the basket.
There it is. The full comparison. Reggie Miller, one of the greatest shooters in basketball history, watches Caitlin Clark break the WNBA three-point record, and his brain goes to Peyton Pritchard, a solid role player averaging 12 points off the bench for Boston. That's the comparison he lands on. And look at her trying to maintain composure while every muscle in her face is screaming disagreement. The disrespect is almost impressive in its boldness. You had Steph Curry right there. You had Damian Lillard. You had Trae Young. You literally had yourself, Reggie. Instead, you went with the Celtics' sixth man. This is the kind of comparison that makes people question if you actually watched her play.
But look, he tried to make up for it. He tried to fix it. I don't know why you said Peyton Pritchard, though. That is mind-boggling. But he tried to fix it with this.
There's a new shooter from Indiana. See, I'm the third best shooter in the state of Indiana now. Okay. It goes Caitlin, Tyrese, and now myself.
We'll have to get Tyrese's opinion on that. I'm not sure Tyrese would agree.
Right here, she's taking over for me right now, so thank you.
All right, man. All right, I can respect that.
Now he's trying to recover. Notice how quickly he pivots to calling her the best shooter in Indiana, above himself. Above Tyrese Halliburton. It's damage control in real time. And you can see Caitlin's expression soften slightly, because at least this makes sense. At least this shows he understands what he's watching. But here's what makes the Pritchard comparison so problematic. It's not just about talent levels. It's about what it reveals regarding how people view women's basketball. Peyton Pritchard is a good shooter with a quick release who makes timely shots. That's a fine NBA player. But Caitlin Clark is a generational talent who changed the trajectory of an entire league. She's the reason WNBA viewership doubled. She's why the Indiana Fever went from afterthought to must-watch television. When you compare her to a role player instead of a superstar, you're not just underrating her skill, you're fundamentally misunderstanding her impact. And that matters because these comparisons shape how casual fans perceive the women's game.
Clark also had some other comments as far as the CBA. Now, we know Nneka Ogwumike, the energy that she's going into the meeting with doesn't seem good. We heard Natasha Cloud. Somebody needs to put a muzzle on her already. Somebody needs to silence that chick. Now, we saw during Team USA when Caitlin Clark said, hey, you know, we got to compromise and yada, yada, yada. And we haven't really heard of any compromises the players have made on this CBA.
This is where things get more complicated. Because now we're shifting from Reggie Miller's questionable player comparisons to something that actually threatens the 2026 season. Caitlin Clark is projecting optimism about the CBA negotiations. She's talking about confidence and compromise and getting a deal done. She's being diplomatic, but here's what she's not saying. She's not at that Monday meeting. She's not in the room where Nneka Ogwumike and Natasha Cloud are representing the players. And based on everything we've heard from those two in recent weeks, the energy they're bringing into negotiations, is very different from Caitlyn's public optimism.
Public rhetoric is turning people off and it's losing them public support. And Natasha Cloud goes and does what she does. Just no media training. It's terrible. Here it says, Caitlin Clark projected a much more optimistic tone about the prospects of the WNBA and its players hammering out a new collective bargaining agreement ahead of talks Monday between the Players Association and the league. The frustration was evident among some WNBA players during Friday's unrivaled tour stop in Philadelphia, but Clark said she felt very confident a new CBA would be worked out to save the 2026 WNBA season. When she made her debut as a contributor on Basketball Night in America on Sunday.
Listen to what she just said. She believes they'll reach a deal because of the product they put on the floor. That's Caitlin being gracious and inclusive. But let's be honest about something. The WNBA is not in this negotiating position because of the collective product. It's in this position because of her. Look at the numbers. Games Caitlin Clark played and averaged 1.2 million viewers on ESPN platforms. Games without her averaged 34,000. That's a threefold difference. The Indiana Fever went from drawing 4,000 fans per game to selling out arenas. Merchandise sales exploded. Sponsorship deals materialized. The league added 2 expansion teams. That's not happening because of the overall product quality. That's happening because one player captured mainstream attention in a way the WNBA has never experienced. And when she says we're in this moment because of the product we put on the floor, she's being far more generous to her peers than the data supports.
She said,
Moments the WNBA has ever seen. Looking forward into the future, what would you like to see happen as you come to a negotiation?
Well, honestly, I don't think it's just a big moment for the WNBA. I think all of women's sports, I think this is one of the biggest moments we've ever had. So, I feel very confident that we're going to get something done, and that's because we're in this moment because of the product we put on the floor. So we need to be able to continue to do that, and I know everybody's working really hard. There's a meeting tomorrow that's super important.
Caitlin, I got to stop you. Y'all not at this moment because of the product on the floor. Y'all at this moment because of you, girl. Y'all at this moment because of you, not because of all.
She's confident both sides will reach a deal. She believes there's good faith on both sides, and maybe she's right. But that confidence isn't being reflected by the players' representatives who are actually in those meetings. Rebecca Lobo said just last week that the players' public rhetoric is turning people off and losing them support. That's a former WNBA star and current ESPN analyst essentially saying the players are fumbling the PR battle. When you've got someone like Rebecca Lobo, who has every reason to support the players, publicly criticizing their approach, that tells you something about how negotiations are actually going. And then there's Natasha Cloud. Every time she speaks publicly about these negotiations, she makes it worse. She's confrontational, she's dismissive of concerns. She frames every question as an attack. That's not someone entering negotiations ready to compromise. That's someone preparing for a fight.
All them, no, I get it. You be trying to be nice. You can stop being nice with these girls. They're haters. They think it's because of them. It's a lot of these games, bro. There's so many damn missed layups in these games. A lot of these games, the score at halftime be 28-31. It's not all that, okay? You are exciting, must-see TV. Do you see the ratings these girls are getting in these other leagues that you're not a part of? They're dog shit. It's piss poor. Come on now.
Important, and I truly do believe we're going to get something done here in the next couple weeks. But like you said, there's a lot of boxes that we still need to check. We've added two new teams. There's going to be more players than ever, and then we have to get into free agency, then have a normal draft as well. So there's a lot of things left to do, but I really do feel confident that both sides are going to reach a deal here soon.
Yeah, draft slated for April 13th.
Draft slated for April 13th. I don't even know if we're going to get to it. You know what I mean? This is crazy. Hopefully we can get this deal done though. She said it's a really big moment. This is a big moment. And this meeting tomorrow is going to be make or break. This Monday meeting is going to be make or break. Make no mistake about it. Make no mistake about it. This is a huge deal.
Here's what concerns me about this entire situation. Caitlin Clark is talking about compromise and confidence in getting a deal done, but we haven't actually heard what the players are willing to compromise on. We've seen the owners increase their offers 3 times. We've seen them adjust revenue-sharing proposals. We've seen them make concessions on travel and accommodations. What have the players given up? What have they moved on? Because compromise means both sides bend. And from the outside looking in, it appears the Players Association believes they hold all the leverage and can simply demand what they want. That might have been true if this was purely about fairness and equity. But this is a business negotiation, and in business negotiations, leverage matters. The owners know something the players don't want to acknowledge. They know that if the 2026 season gets canceled, Caitlin Clark will be fine. She's got opportunities in Europe, in 3-on-3 leagues, in media, she'll land on her feet. But what happens to the rest of the league? What happens to the players who don't have her marketability? What happens to the expansion teams that just paid $50 million for franchises? What happens to the sponsorship deals that were predicated on the league's growth trajectory? The players think they're negotiating from strength because of record viewership and attendance. But that strength is concentrated in one player. And if this negotiation falls apart, and the season gets canceled, that strength evaporates. Sponsors don't wait around. Fans move on. Momentum dies.
It has to get done. It has to get done right. Okay? And we, listen, just don't go in there talking crazy. That's my whole thing. I just don't like who y'all sending in the meeting to be the messengers. Okay? Nneka Ogwumike and them, man, they're so focused on trying to hit a historical thing and make press and news and be on CNN and Good Morning America for the unprecedented deal rather than just getting a good deal done. They're trying to go on some national media run about it, man. It's like, I don't know, man. All these ulterior motives is just really mind-boggling. But I'll be keeping y'all updated all day on what's going on in those meetings right here on this channel. Get down in the comments and let me know what you think about this. Keep the vision. Make sure you like, comments.
The draft is scheduled for April 13th. That's the target. But we're running out of time. And the concerning part is that the people leading these negotiations for the players seem more focused on making history than making a deal. Nneka Ogwumike and the Players Association representatives want to be on CNN and Good Morning America talking about their unprecedented agreement. They want to be celebrated for securing something historic, and that's fine. Ambition is good. But when your priority becomes the headlines rather than the actual terms, you make bad decisions. You hold out for that extra percentage point because it sounds better in the press release. You refuse to compromise on language because you want the perfect talking point. You prioritize optics over outcomes, and that's how negotiations collapse. The owners don't care about headlines. They care about building sustainable franchises. They care about protecting their investments. They care about creating a business model that works long-term. Those are fundamentally different priorities. And when one side is chasing legacy while the other side is chasing sustainability, finding common ground becomes exponentially harder. So let's talk about what's really at stake here. Because this isn't just about salaries and revenue sharing and charter flights. This is about whether the WNBA can capitalize on the momentum Caitlin Clark created, or whether they're going to squander it in a labor dispute. The league just experienced its best year in history. Viewership up 170% on ESPN platforms. Attendance up across the board. Social media engagement through the roof. Major brands investing real money, 2 expansion teams paying $50 million each to join. This is the moment every women's sports league dreams about. The breakthrough moment where mainstream attention finally arrives. And they're risking all of it. Because here's what happens if the 2026 season gets canceled. First, you lose an entire year of momentum. Casual fans who just discovered the WNBA last season won't wait around. They'll move on to something else. That's how casual fandom works. You have to feed it consistently or it evaporates. Second, you damage relationships with sponsors and media partners. ESPN and other networks made significant investments in WNBA coverage based on the 2025 numbers. If there's no 2026 season, they're reassessing those commitments. They're asking whether that growth was sustainable or just a one-year spike. And they're probably reducing their future investments accordingly. Third, you create uncertainty around the expansion teams. Golden State and Toronto just paid $50 million each for franchises set to begin play in 2026. If there's no season, what happens to those investments? Do they get refunded? Do they wait another year? Do they start questioning whether this was a smart business decision? That uncertainty impacts future expansion plans and the league's overall growth trajectory. Fourth, and this is crucial, you risk losing Caitlin Clark's prime years. She's 23 years old right now. She's entering what should be the peak of her career. If you cancel the 2026 season, she's 24 and hasn't played competitive basketball in a year. If negotiations drag into 2027, she's 25 and has missed 2 years. Those are years you don't get back. Those are years of building her legend, growing her fan base, cementing her legacy. You're gambling with the career of the only player who's ever generated this level of mainstream interest. Fifth, you embolden the critics who've always said women's basketball isn't viable as a professional product. They'll point to this labor dispute as proof that the league can't sustain itself. They'll say the players are greedy and unrealistic. They'll say the owners were right to be cautious with investments. You hand ammunition to everyone who wants to see the WNBA fail. Now, are the players justified in asking for more? Absolutely. The previous CBA was signed before anyone knew what Caitlin Clark would do for the league. The revenue projections were conservative. The salary structures were based on the old reality. The players are right to say the situation has changed and the deal should reflect that. But being right doesn't mean you have unlimited leverage. Being right doesn't mean you can demand everything you want without compromise. Being right doesn't protect you from the consequences of a failed negotiation. The owners have increased their offer significantly. They've moved on revenue sharing. They've addressed travel concerns. They've acknowledged the new reality. What they haven't done is agree to every single player demand. And that's where we are right now. The players seem to believe that anything less than total victory is unacceptable. That's not negotiation. That's ultimate, and ultimatums are how deals fall apart. Watch what happens Monday. Watch whether the players' representatives come out talking about progress and compromise, or whether they come out talking about principle and standing firm. That'll tell you everything you need to know about where this is headed. Because here's the thing about Caitlin Clark's optimism. She's not wrong to be hopeful. She's not wrong to believe a deal will get done. But she's also not in that room. She's not hearing the actual conversations. She's not seeing the body language and the tension and the unwillingness to bend. She's projecting what she hopes will happen, not necessarily what's likely to happen. And the people who are in that room, the people who are actually negotiating, they're not projecting optimism. They're projecting determination to win. They're projecting unwillingness to settle. They're projecting a belief that they hold all the cards and can simply wait out the owners. That's a dangerous mindset, because the owners can afford to wait. They're not losing their prime earning years. They're not watching their athletic careers tick away. They can sit on their franchises and wait for the players to blink. The players don't have that luxury. Every year they lose is a year they'll never get back. So when you hear Caitlin Clark talking about confidence and compromise, remember that she's speaking from a position of security. She'll be fine no matter what happens. She's got options and opportunities that most WNBA players don't have. Her optimism is genuine, but it's not necessarily informed by the reality of what's happening in those negotiation rooms. The question isn't whether a deal is possible. Of course it's possible. The question is whether the people negotiating are actually trying to reach a deal, or whether they're trying to win a public relations battle. Because those are two very different objectives. And right now, it feels like the Players Association is more focused on the latter than the former. If they were focused on reaching a deal, they'd be talking publicly about the progress being made. They'd be highlighting areas of agreement. They'd be building public support for a compromise position. Instead, they're talking about standing firm and not backing down and fighting for what they deserve. That's the language of conflict, not collaboration. And that brings us back to Reggie Miller's terrible comparison. Because in a weird way, it's connected. Both situations reflect a fundamental misunderstanding of what Caitlin Clark represents. Reggie compared her to a role player because he wasn't fully grasping her impact. The Players Association is negotiating as if the league's leverage is distributed equally across all players, when in reality it's concentrated in one person. If Caitlin Clark sat out, the WNBA would be in crisis. If any other player sat out, the league would barely notice. That's not fair. That's not equitable, but it's reality. And negotiations have to be based on reality, not on how we wish things were. So here's what I think happens. I think they reach a deal eventually, but not before creating unnecessary drama and uncertainty. I think the players will get more money and better conditions, but less than they're currently demanding. I think both sides will claim victory, while privately acknowledging they left opportunities on the table. And I think the 2026 season will happen, but with a cloud of tension hanging over it. The real question is whether they learn anything from this process, whether they recognize that the WNBA's growth is fragile and needs to be protected, whether they understand that momentum can evaporate as quickly as it appeared, whether they appreciate that they're in a unique moment that might not come around again. Because if they blow this, if they let ego and pride and the desire for perfect headlines derail these negotiations, they'll regret it for the rest of their careers. They'll look back and realize they had everything they needed to build something sustainable, and they gambled it away trying to get everything they wanted. That's what's at stake Monday, not just salaries and revenue sharing, but the entire future trajectory of women's professional basketball. Let's hope the people in that room understand what they're risking. Drop a comment and let me know what you think happens with these CBA negotiations. Are the players overplaying their hand, or are they right to stand firm? And was Reggie Miller's Peyton Pritchard comparison the worst player comparison you've ever heard? Hit that subscribe button because we'll be breaking down everything that happens in Monday's meeting the moment news break.